What about the people? Why is America
not the greatest country in the world, Professor? That's my answer.
You're saying...
Yes.
Let's talk about...
Fine. Sharon, the NEA is a loser. Yeah, it accounts for a penny out of our paycheck, but he gets to hit you with it anytime he wants. It doesn't cost money. It costs votes. It costs airtime and column inches. You know why people don't like liberals? Because they lose. If liberals are so fucking smart, how come they lose so goddamn always?
Hey.
And with a straight face, you're going to tell students that America is so star-spangled awesome that we're the only ones in the world who have freedom?
Canada has freedom. Japan has freedom. The UK, France, Italy, Germany, Spain,
Australia, Belgium has freedom. So 207 sovereign states in the world, like 180 of them have freedom.
All right.
And yet you, sorority girl,
just in case you accidentally wander into a voting booth one day,
there's some things you should know. And one of them is, there is absolutely no evidence to support the statement that we're the greatest country in the world. We're 7th in literacy, 27th in math, 22nd in science, 49th in life expectancy, 178th in infant mortality, 3rd in median household income, number 4 in labor force, and number 4 in exports. We lead the world in only 3 categories: number of incarcerated citizens per capita, number of adults who believe angels are real, and defense spending, where we spend more than the next 26 countries combined, 25 of whom are allies. Now, none of this is the fault of a 20-year-old college student, but you nonetheless are, without a doubt, a member of the worst generation ever. So when you ask what makes us the greatest country in the world, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yosemite?
You should have just said something nice.
Sure used to be.
Sure used to.
We stood up for what was right. We fought for moral reasons. We passed laws, struck down laws for moral reasons. We waged wars on poverty, not poor people. We sacrificed. We cared about our neighbors. We put our money where our mouths were, and we never beat our chest. We built great big things, made ungodly technological advances, explored the universe, cured diseases, and we cultivated the world's greatest artists and the world's greatest economy. We reached for the stars, acted like men. We aspired to intelligence. We didn't belittle it. It didn't make us feel inferior. We didn't identify ourselves by who we voted for in the last election, and we didn't scare so easy. We were able to be all these things and do all these things because we were informed by great men who were revered. First step in solving any problem is recognizing there is one. America is not the greatest country in the world anymore. Enough?
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? It never gets old. It never, ever, ever. I have watched that clip. Oh my God. I've watched that probably 100 times. Easy. And every time I get emotional. Y'all. I don't know. If you know. We could do so much. We could be so much. And we used to be. And one of the reasons I love that clip is because if we used to be great, if we used to build the biggest things, and we used to have very happy people, and, not all groups, but we were heading in the right directions. We were growing. We were evolving. Communities worked together. We had a design that allowed us to fix our problems so we could continue to evolve. And then one day, it stopped. It stopped. And so what stopped it? You can debate and talk to different people. They have different ideas about how we got to where we were, where we're no longer revered in the world. We're just feared. Mostly talking about the West in America being a leader. The solution is in the past, right? If in the past that's where we became great. You know, on the backs and the shoulders of, you know, great men and women. It's in the past where I think we find that past wisdom, the things they used to do, the ways they used to be. I think that's how we get back to being any sort of great. And so that's why I talk the way that I do, and I focus on what I do. I don't have any interest in any sort of political parties or politics or anything like that. The question is, how do we go back to being great? Because when I watch that clip, I think about what if, and I just posted this book. What if you lived in a neighborhood where the best ideas didn't bubble to the top? What if you were in a classroom and the smartest students weren't the one who answered the questions and spoke up? What if you were in a world and the country with the best ideas in certain areas and certain topics wasn't the country rolling out all of the solutions? It'd be pretty bad. It would be pretty bad. I think we find ourselves in that time where, unfortunately, the most violent countries are rolling out the solutions. The ones with the most tanks and the ones with the most bombs dictate the education system for the whole world, for all the colonies that they establish. And I think we're just at that space where we have to have some sort of a coming together of the tribes. And a lot of my friends are activists, which is pretty much why I thought this way. My family think I'm crazy, I'm sure. Every now and then they come in, and I'm sure your families think you're crazy too. Can't you just answer the question, why is America the best country in the world? Because of our freedoms. You know, answer the question. That's how the mainstream media, they would have you answer that question. That's how they would have you be. That we're the best because we've always been the best. We were raised at a time where we were always taught that we were the best. And I was raised at that time. I was raised at a time where, you know, we said our Pledge of Allegiance, and you know, we had our civics class, and America's the best. Everybody wants to be like us. Russians want, they don't have jeans, and they want jeans, and they want soda pop, and they want rock and roll. And we somehow got off of that boat. And probably, to be honest with you, at the time, a lot of us, many of us were in school and we were being taught this. We probably weren't on that boat. I don't think the space that we're in, I don't think that we just got here. I think we've been here for a very long time. But anyway, so I'm gonna talk about that a little bit this morning. How are y'all doing? I got a late start. Big brother had to roll out some updates, y'all. That's what happens when you know. So I got a thought. Hold on, let me see. How's everybody doing this morning? We may not have a crowd this morning because I think most people, they get ready for you to come on at a certain time and they're ready to go. And you know, and if you come on at a different time, they tend to miss you, which is okay. Good morning, Renee and Kathy and Brother Forrest and Kenny, Mary, Debbie, Jasmine. Oh, Forrest Paint, you gonna listen in? Thank you, brother. I certainly appreciate you. But Jasmine and Colin and Lou, Janet, Soraya, James, Mandy. Okay, we got a bunch of people, so we can have a bit of a. These aren't discussions, yo. I guess I don't like give talks, and I don't give. We're not really facilitating discussions necessarily. I think, like, I'm trying to figure out what in the heck I'm doing, and I think mostly it's not discussions because we don't have enough interaction. And to be honest with you, I don't like to discuss things. I'll be honest with you. So, like, I'll go look at other threads, and sometimes it'll happen on mine. And you know, people will pull me into a discussion, and I'll kind of give my information, my thoughts, and any facts I have with that. And I'll watch yours come back, your thoughts and any facts that you have with that. And I'm pretty much done at that point. Like, at that, because think about it like this. If you are having a discussion. Most of the discussion nowadays, a modern discussion, maybe not what they used to be, but nowadays, people come into a discussion because they already have a set agenda to pull you to their team, to make you think like they do, or to make you accept what they're going to tell you. And I don't have any interest in that. I honestly, I don't really do well with people like that. Like, I don't want to think what you think. My brain, look at my big head. Does your head look like that? My brain, it thinks a little different. I want to think, the things that I do based on the facts that I have. And so I'll kind of share something. And if it means something to you, great. Maybe it'll shift how you think. You share something with me, and if it means something to me and it kind of tweaks my understanding a bit with your facts, then that's awesome, of the way you put together the details. But as far as like the back and forth that you see on a lot of threads, I don't do it because I guess that's more of a discussion. It's more of a modern back and forth fight. And there are people who live for that. And I like Brother Forrest, I got painting to do. I don't have time for trying to make you think like I do. And plus, if you want me to think like you do, or if I want you to think like I do, or, I want you to think like me, then that's like a preconceived agenda. And I don't want that. Like, I love you to death, but you're not necessarily the person I want to interact with. I want to learn. I don't want to be forced, and I don't want to be told. I want to learn something. I want your thoughts, and I want your facts. But as far as like trying to beat me down, or me beat you down, there was a thing. And y'all know that I'm Christian. I keep saying it. And Brother Johnny's back. So if y'all ever see Brother Johnny on the thread, anytime I say I'm a Christian, he comes right in. He got banned. See, Johnny, that's why you got banned. You need to stop hating on Christians. We just like everybody else, all right? If somebody's out there bombing, murdering, they're not Christian. He got banned because he was talking about some Jews and Christians somewhere. And I guess that's where the banning is going. That's where the censorship is going. It's going to a level of now you got to be politically correct or you get banned. And I think that's ridiculous. Like Brother Johnny, he'll come at me hard. Y'all see, he'll probably be in a minute. And he'll start saying Christians did this and Christians, And I laugh, but he's right. Why am I going to dispute that? Like, those people were Christian who did all this and crusades and a lot of this nonsense, and they were Jewish. But I don't take it personally. Like, why would I take that personally? Like, he's portraying a fact, and he's putting it in a package of how he thinks about it. And this is how a lot of my friends are atheists. A lot of my friends are Muslim. A lot of my friends are Hindu. Because I don't have to dump anything on you. You don't have to dump anything on me. And that's kind of what I want to be around. I want to be around the people who give thoughts and give facts. And okay, they don't want to argue. They don't want to fight. They don't want, a long drawn out discussion. They just want to share. And I think maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to do. Maybe I'm trying to put together a community of sharers, not necessarily discussers, but people who share. They do it with respect. They do it out of love. And they do it because they understand what's happening in the world. And that's why I'm in front of the world map here. All the human tribes, or a lot of the tribes. We are at a time where we got to bring the tribe together. Because this is one of the first times in human history that we actually can come together. Right? We've never had this opportunity. No generation has been so blessed and lucky to be able to connect with people from all over the world. Like, I'll give you an example why it's important to me. So, I guess, and I saw it. I'm not saying I didn't see it. I saw it. But the Alabama election, apparently there are two people running. One of them's name was Roy. I don't know the other, but apparently one said some racial stuff. And I think I remember this from a while back. And I saw it. I didn't really pay attention to it. And the only reason I saw it is because it showed up in the international news. That's the only reason why. I don't watch local news. I don't watch American news. And it's not that I'm not interested in America, but I live here. I grew up here. Like, I don't need to know the American tribal news. I don't necessarily need to know it because mostly two things. We're in a time where it's not important anymore. The problems we have are not border necessarily problems. They're not country problems. The problems we have are fundamental violence and greed problems. And they've infected the entire world. And so the idea that you're going to just treat the little toe and not the whole body that's infected, that makes no sense. And it's not going to work. It's like growing up. Oh my goodness. I grew up outside in one of the roughest cities in the world, Washington, D.C. And it was at a time when crack cocaine came in. And oh my goodness, it was just Rayful Edmond. He ran the biggest gang. He basically ran the city outside of the White House. You know, the president would hide in the White House and he ran everything else. Crazy. And I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I have a lot of things going through my head this morning. You know, but I grew up outside of a rough town. And it gave me, you know, some real perspectives as to where we shouldn't be, right? Like we used to watch the news as kids, and they would do a murder count in the cities overnight, in the city of Washington, D.C. overnight. And they would count up how many people were murdered in the city last night. And they would run the list over the years. At the end of the year, you know how many people were murdered in D.C. And I asked myself, why in the hell does anybody want to know that? What is that even used for? Why would children, and back then we used to do current events, so we'd have to watch the news and put together reports, but why would you want children to know how violent and destructive the previous generation is like that? So anyway, you know, all these things that I've witnessed, they kind of form me into what I am. I think the things that you've witnessed and what you've experienced and what you've learned formed you into what you are. And now the internet, and this happened over 200,000 years, and now the internet connects all of that together. And if you can start to see, so I get the problems in America, and I'm very familiar with the problems in America. What's interesting to me, though, is to look at the problems in the world and sync up with that. So, okay, this is what I was going to say. I grew up outside of D.C. And so one thing you had the low-level drug dealers. This is what Rayful Edmond was into and his guys. Low-level drug dealers. And you had the cartels. And then you had apparently the CIA and the politicians that were with them. And they convinced us, and this is going to get back to Clinton and the crime bill, but they convinced us that, oh, we're going to fight the war on drugs. We're going to fight drugs. And the only people they locked up were the low-level drug dealers. They never went after the upper levels. They never went after the Nino Browns. They never went after the cartels. They damn sure didn't lock up the CIA or any of the politicians that were with them. And they never solved the problem. Well, maybe they knew the problem. It was the CIA put in all the drug routes. I created gangs all over the United States, murdered a lot of people, killed a lot of people. Treason, traitorous. But they did that anyway. I'm sure that whatever people had them do that actually thought that they meant they were doing well, they were meaning well. Some good people sometimes, y'all, come up with violent solutions. And I know sometimes I'm hard on some of the decisions our leaders make, but you know, people who make violent solutions and they think like it's a good idea, those people need to take a back seat. Those are the people that we don't really want running things. The best idea you can come up with is that if you need to hurt and kill and hurt somebody that you disagree with, then you need to go find like a gang that you can join. A lot of these politicians, they need to take off the tie and the suit and they need to go find like some triads or some Crips or some Bloods and go ahead and join up with them. Because they think just like you. You would do really, really well with them. That's probably 90-some% of our politicians, our leaders, you know. But it's one of these things that you want to attack a problem at the root, right? You don't want to treat the side effect. And that's what they were constantly doing. They were locking up the little kids that were selling drugs, little kids, 14 to 20, whatever they were. The low level ones, the people low on the totem pole, but they never went after the actual problem. The CIA was making the drug routes into the country. They never solved the actual problem. So when I look at what's wrong with the world, how did we get here? It all has to do with what's happening all over the world. And I think that from a fixed perspective, you have to work locally because there is no global structures that are actually doing anything around the world that I think is really approaching the problems you're doing or fixing anything. And I think our fixes are local, right? They're so local, and you're thinking, oh, state level, city level, community level. No, they're local. Our fixes are within us. Our fixes are in the mirror. Like, we are the things that are broken. And everything else around us just responds to that. I was talking about this morning, we like to point at the politicians. Oh, the politicians, the politicians, the politicians. And I was sitting here thinking, I had crazy thoughts sometimes. And I was sitting here thinking, well, wait a minute. The average Western person, they get a job. And they want to get paid as much as possible and do as little as possible. That's not everybody. Every office has a Forrest or a John or a Sarah who, damn it, they get there early, they don't clock in, they try to get things ready, get them all set up, bring in the bagels and they work late and they just want to do a good job. But the vast majority of the Western world is they want, and I can talk about America. I don't know about all of the West, but that I can see, if the rest of the West, modern world is like America, the majority of people want to make as much as they can and do as little effort as possible. I had a friend who used to say, we had contractors who used to come to the site when we worked, and he would say, they're just conning money. They're just conning money. They're not doing anything. They're just taking money. If we are this way, if the majority of us are this way, how in the heck do we expect the government not to be the same? Think about that for a minute. You want the politicians to be so, do a good job. Don't just try to make as much as you can and do nothing. If we are this way and the government is us, of course they're going to be that way. They're going to be precisely that way. And not only that, think about a time where we're all divided. Okay, I'll say it another. Let's talk about it from a work level. Say you have multiple bosses. You come into work and sit down, and one boss comes to your desk and says, I'm going to need those TPS reports by 2 o'clock. And they walk away. And you got another boss comes over and says, I'm going to need you to do the C37 report, and I'm going to need it by 3. And another boss comes in. So if the bosses are divided, and you're sitting there like, what in the hell? Like, how? I can't do all of this. If your bosses are divided, you're like, you ever get to shut down in work? I get to shut down sometimes, right? I just got too much on my to-do list. I'm like, oh, damn. I don't even know where to start. This to-do list, are you kidding? I used to be married, y'all. I'm going to say, I had my honey-do list on top of the work list, on top of the everything list and the kid list. And I just look at it like, oh, Lord, I'm never going to do all this. I don't even know where to start. What if that was a politician? Right? Because are we not their bosses? Are we not the ones who tell them what to do? And if we're divided into multiple groups and we all got something that we want, and we all yelling at the politician, this is what we want. Could not a politician get to a spot like, oh, damn, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. These people, they want this, they want that, I'm just going to drink my coffee. Like, if I do this, then I'm not going to finish this report for the Republicans by 3 o'clock. And if I do this, I'm not going to finish the TPS report for the Democrats by 3. So I don't even know what to do. I don't even know where to get started. Then if I do this, they're going to be mad. If I do this, they're going to be mad. So I'll wait. I'm going to sit here and wait till the bosses get together and they actually tell me what to do. The politicians sit back. And then someone comes in behind them and says it's called a lobbyist. They come in behind like, look, Wall Street, I got $100,000. Oh, yeah? Look, all I want is a 7-2 report by noon. Can you do that? Oh, I can do that. Hell yeah, I can do that because they're going to pay me no matter what I do. Oh yeah, they gonna pay you. Okay, well, I'm gonna take their money. I ain't gonna do nothing, and you gonna pay me, and you gonna keep paying me to keep just giving you this report by one. Okay, by noon. Damn it. Okay, so I'm gonna let the bosses keep fighting. I'm gonna let the Democrats and the Republicans and the conservatives and the Muslims and the Hindus and the right and the left. I'm gonna let these fools keep fighting. I'm gonna keep taking their money. I'm gonna sit back here, relax, and I'm gonna take my paycheck. Oh, I'm sorry. I might lose some friends over this one. But I'm just being real. Like, seriously. Think about that for a minute. If we are just this lazy that we want to get paid and we don't do nothing, we don't do nothing, go to work, take the long lunch break, show up late, go in, clock in, go outside, have a smoke break. If we're there just conning money, why in the heck do we expect the politicians to not be us? Y'all know they are us, right? You know, when you say the government, y'all get mad. It's the government doing something. You know, that's your postal workers. That's the lady that she's sealing your packages for you, sending nuts to your grandma, got off the peanut tree. And you're sending, they are us. They are. This is why I'm saying it's so we were talking about Alabama. I don't know what's happening in Alabama. I don't know, people. I'm not even paying attention. Y'all saying it was something good. Somebody else saying something bad. I'm saying I don't think you realize the problem. That's what I'm saying. Frederick Douglass said, and so we'll go to Frederick Douglass. So that's why I like to look at the international news. I want to know what's going on worldwide, because I think you have to look international to know, and then you have to change local within yourself. And hopefully, if it's a good change, it will be infectious in your communities. And this is how we change the world. To me, I call it a coming together of the tribes. I call it the tribes from all over the world. The ones in those tribes who actually get what's going on. You know how you have some tribes? Tribes are like families, y'all. You always got one in it. No, actually, you don't have one. You probably got 9. You probably got 90% of the family. But no, you always have people in the tribe who just don't get it. They're just kind of, those are the ones that the bears get and we'll forget. But there are those who get it and they understand, like, no, take it from the Native American perspective. Y'all see who just got off that boat? I ain't never seen nothing like that before in my life. Yeah, they got these things called guns and they're shooting people. Y'all sure y'all wanna go be friendly with them? Maybe we should go out west. You always had one in the tribe who kind of knew what was going on, And by the time those tribes got together, it was too late. The West came, had the guns and the cannons and stuff. But it's a coming together of the tribes. And so if we know worldwide what's happening, and we can see that it is this debt, and it's this colonization, and it's greed, the core of every problem. Is like yesterday, I was in a funk, man. I was in a funk. If y'all were on my page, there's not a whole lot of laughing. I kind of started to get some fun back towards the end of the day, but it was rough. It was rough. I was looking at Iris Chang, phenomenal lady, y'all. Phenomenal lady. Oh my God, this woman, she's human. She is human, and she is more of a man than I will ever be. And I don't mean that in a bad way. The woman is fine. She's American, but she was from China. Chinese American. I like to say racist. I gotta say whatever. So, but she stepped up to systems that I don't know that I even have the ability. I don't know that I have the cojones to step up to. I'm not sure I even know who they were, but she went and she highlighted the Nanking massacre to the world, a world that completely forgot about the time they took 300,000 human beings and murdered them. And she spoke out in California against what was happening to Chinese Americans in California. She spoke out, I think it was actually against, I want to say it was Pakistanis and what they were doing. In terms of, she stood up in places where most men in the world won't stand up today. Most men in the world won't stand up till you make a touchdown. Oh! But they won't stand up for children. They won't stand up for their kids. They won't stand up for the next generation. They might stand up for the NFL and their political parties, but they won't stand up against these corrupt systems, the greed and the violent solutions that are destroying the next generation's world. And so I don't want to talk about her too much. It's deep. She ended up dying under suspicious causes. But I look back at stuff like that, and these people who came before us, and you can put JFK in that column, you can put Martin Luther King, you can put a bunch of them in there. You can put John Lennon in there. These people who came before us, and they paid the ultimate price to give us a message, right? Some of them got the message right, maybe some of them got some of the message wrong, but they had a role to play. And their role was not fantasy football. I know y'all good at fantasy football. I know. I'm not saying that. You keep playing your fantasy football. But they had a role to play. They were put on this earth for a reason, if you're spiritual. And they played their role. And they got out. Somebody took them out. And that role and that life being lost is useless unless we do something with what they figured out. So I posted a bunch of stuff from her yesterday, but I found my joy again, y'all. Don't ever let anything take your joy. And it's easy for greed and money and the reasons that the Japanese invaded China. When you understand that it's greed that's behind it, and it's the structure of the world that makes that possible, then you understand there's something inherently sick with the structure of the world, that violence is a fundamental part of the systems that run this world. Then you can start to understand what we got to change. I'm just saying that's not in Alabama. That's all I'm saying. And so there are people who are focused on that. And to me, I'm not. Because I've seen enough to know that the fundamental core of all the groups all over the world, they're fundamentally violent. The vast majority. I have to look at my thread. I posted this question this morning. If there are any governments that aren't fundamentally violent at their core, haven't murdered anybody, they never engaged in democide, never sat back and enjoyed some famines, and I'm just waiting. I have to go back and see if I got some responses. I'm not sure that I got any good responses yet, but I'm waiting. I know mine isn't, so damn it, I don't want to see no Americans. Y'all not on that thread. It's not your thread. That's not your comment thread. Our place is to shut the hell up. Like, I'm going to be honest. Like, Americans, we need to step back, and that's why I played that clip at the beginning. America isn't the best country in the world. Do we do some things good? Yeah, we do. Do we got a good structure? We have some good core foundational structure that, because the founder stepped out on something amazing, right? They stepped out on this idea of freedom, that human beings should be able to live the life they want to lead without a king, without lordship. And they wanted to own a plot of land and start a garden and live the way they want to live in freedom, no matter who they are, no matter what race, no matter what color, what religion, no matter their culture and how they wanted to live. And everybody else was just going to leave them alone and let them live. America has some core fundamental values that are right for humanity and moving forward, with the human race. And as well, America has embedded in it a dynamic core that allows it to be evolved. So over time, America was designed to start, and you always started. Someone always thinks it's utopia. People they'll say this to me. I'll talk about zeitgeist and Venus. They'll say, "Oh, is he talking utopia?" No, I'm not talking. It's never utopia. When America started, they had some real problems. There were a lot of things that weren't solved yet. But over time, they had a dynamic form of government that could be changed over time and turned into something that benefited freedom. And now is the time for Americans, for the world to understand that these core elements are human life focused. They're humanity focused, and they are a piece of the future. Now, a lot of other things that are whittled in there that were just a hot mess. But knowing that the hot mess stuff took over, this is when Americans, we just need to kind of stand back. We need to kind of just stand back and listen to what's happening around the world. You know, it's time for American, well, not the portions of the American tribe anyway that I think are paying attention. The ones who are paying attention, it's time for us to listen to the world. What is in your government that's so good? What is there that's not working out so well? You know, did they put in a structure to stop lobbyists from buying the whole damn government? So I want to go. I got a couple of things. I wanted to show you something. I wanted to going down a good path this morning. I'm not feeling good. Yesterday was rough, y'all. It was rough. But we have good things in our world, and we got to talk about the good things. And sometimes it's not our place to take the stage, and we need to let someone else talk. So let me show you something. This is a brother who's I'm not sure if this is going to work. With a little technology and all this. This can be a little bit of a challenge. I know what I did wrong. Let me try that again. You know, and a great time for people to actually start waking up and getting involved in making some changes within themselves, right? It's Christmas time. You know, this is a time that we should be focused on others. And you know, while I'm getting this set up, you know, so the other reason I wasn't jumping up and down, praising and happy about what's happening in Alabama, because I'm not watching, I'm not paying attention. I think it's significant to what we got to do. Is at the core. I could ask the question another way, and the other way I was thinking about asking is, whose political party at the core isn't violent? Right? Whose political party at the core doesn't roll out violent solutions, murdering people that they're not smart enough to come up with solutions for? I think it is a time that we start backing away from the groups whose solutions are murderous. And so I don't personally think that there's going to be any difference in the state of Alabama, any significant difference to the people all over the world by bringing in the Democrats. I know what they do. They don't like me. Well, certainly not their leadership, but they don't know me. But I'm not interested in murder, death, kill. I'm not interested in agreeing with taking what somebody has because you don't agree with them. You know what? I'm not sure I'm going to get this to show right. I just want you to be able to see the core of it. And I just have to be happy with that. Like that. All right. I want y'all to take it. Listen to this brother for a second. This is Peter Joseph, by the way. I think I'm going to actually start giving a few clips from him every time I have a talk. Because this is one of the brothers who's been looking at solutions. He figured out a long time ago that we were going the wrong way. And that's who we need to listen. So check this out.
This will reduce scarcity, reduce inequality, and reduce environmental footprint. It will also better harness ephemeralization, moving us closer to this post-scarcity abundance that we've been talking about for years. Now, accomplishing this transition will require both creative initiative and activist initiative, and that one is the real loss. We understand the creative initiative. We understand we need think tanks. We need people to get together and start to work with those 5 attributes I talked about, create new infrastructures online where people can engage in good design through a completely participatory economic democracy rather than what we have now. The creative initiative has to do with developing the efficiency-enhancing systems that will compose the new economic mode. The activist initiative has to do with strategic pressure and demands placed upon the existing power structure, coercing change from the bottom up. Because I'm sorry to say, none of this is going to happen without a fight. The system of capitalism is a system of social control. It has its merits. Technology has made it seem okay. But those that have been around for literally thousands of years, the faceless, hierarchical 1%, so to speak, the ones that continually preserve that element of the system that keeps them above everybody else, that has not changed. And it's not going to change without a unified interest. And this leads me to effectively my last slide. I've spent a long time trying to talk to people that, first you're in the system, you have a family or something, you don't want to rock the boat. You have your own concerns. You have to just stay healthy and so on. You can understand why people are backed into a corner and why this kind of transition is so difficult. And then there are those that just are so brainwashed. They have such an anti-socialist disposition. They have such a core value orientation to the system that you just can't get through to them. And they're effectively, they don't know enough. They're ignorant. And then there are those that should know better. The techno-capitalist apologists, the people that have done well in their entrepreneurialism. They refer to themselves as social entrepreneurs or green entrepreneurs. They investigate and they talk about high technology. The Ray Kurzweils, the Peter Diamandis, the Jeremy Rifkins, in fact, whom I love. I love all these guys. The Steven Pinkers, who try to tell you that the world just keeps getting better and, it's just these negative people that are dissatisfied. There are 46 million slaves in the world right now. Some of them past their generations. There's still feudalism in Asia. There's the measure of what creates future success as a species means you have to hold on to these patterns of development that are creating better social justice, equity, and sustainability. And all those trends are now in question. So it bothers me tremendously when I hear this fraudulent green capitalism stuff or this kind of weird passive pussyfooting around that we should be somewhat complacent with corporations and use them to our advantage. Obviously, we have to use them to our advantage to some degree. The very fact that we're here is based on a monetary architecture. The fact I have a computer, all of this means we're participating in the system, obviously. But if you don't acknowledge that the system is fundamentally violent, that the system is an archaic social control system that has benefited with the illusion of technology's efficiency to make it seem like everything is getting better, ignoring all the vast destruction in its wake, then there's a serious problem.
Okay, my first question.
And it's a greater talk. It was the one I posted a while ago. He said a lot of things there, right? And one of the biggest ones in the beginning. So these are the discussions that we're having with our family and our friends, right? In terms of something is wrong with the world. It's obvious to anybody who isn't enjoying it. It's obvious to anybody who isn't close up to where they pour the lemonade on the plantation porch, right? The people who aren't high up in those layers understand that this is sick, that something has got to give or this is going to break. This is not sustainable. This monetary debt solution system that we're rolling out over the world based on fundamental violence, it can't stay and it doesn't work. And so, like I started talking on, this is why I don't really have discussions, because I'm not really interested in people who don't want to get it, right? Because let's be honest, there are people who are so high up in this structural thing, and a lot of them come from people who were just downtrodden and destroyed by this, right? By history. But they're locked in. They work for the corporations, right? They're a part of the system. They're not going to let go. They bitten in, and they have a lifestyle. They're not listening to you, and they're not going to listen to you. I don't want to go too far down the whole side road. I don't think these people sold us out. I think that these people bought in too much, and they listened to sellouts, right? Their leaders tend to be the sellouts, but not them. They're just a part of the 99% that are so locked in. They're so dependent on cotton that they can't imagine an end to slavery, right? Because that's what we're talking about. Cotton is a metaphor. So I posted something this morning. And the reason I was late this morning is because Big Brother had to put some updates down to my machine. So, oh my goodness, it took forever. Then I got a notice on my phone. There's some updates that Google wants to push down to there too. And I'm just like, oh boy. They're trying to push down new updates to the camera software, to the mics, to turn stuff. Like, what is he up to? What is he doing? What's he talking about? I'm not talking about nothing. I'm not talking about anything that's going to invoke your nonsense. But, and then I was thinking about the computer. And I was thinking, if we go with the cotton metaphor, a computer is actually, it increases the efficiency of the modern crop. Right? Whatever it is that you do, it could be services rendered to a corporation, it could be products that you guys make, retail things that you sell. But these computers make it more efficient for us to pick the cotton, for us to develop the software, for us to sell whatever we're selling, for us to deploy whatever services we're deploying. So in fact, the computer actually is just a technological cotton gin. Isn't that the purpose of the cotton gin? The cotton gin made it easier for slaves to separate, I think, the cotton from the stalks, something of that nature. And so it increased efficiency. And so there was a spike actually in slavery at that time, if you remember history, because these things allowed for corporations to make a lot more money. And I don't think things have changed, right? So anyway, I was getting an update to my cotton gin. This is my cotton gin from now on. That's what I'm talking about. We all have a lot of cotton gins because these are all conduits of forced labor. And if you don't think that you're forced into labor, then you go ahead and quit your job. Stop paying your taxes and go sit in your house and see what happens to you. You are in a forced labor environment. And people around the world aren't. We are one of the nations that are. The other thing that Peter Joseph said that was real deep in that little clip, he talked about, and this is what Frederick Douglass is saying right here, which is there's no progress without struggle. There has to be a struggle. The great thing about today, though, is it doesn't have to be a violent struggle. It doesn't have to be any sort of a chaotic thing, right? Because the 99% dictate how things go. If we don't buy into the cotton societies and the monopolies and the things that feed these corporations, they collapse. And we build something anew when they collapse. We don't have, and I'm not saying that's the way to go. I'm just saying that we live in a time where we don't need violent solutions. And we should have evolved brains past that. Not everybody, some. So some of us have not evolved brains past that. And what I mean by that, and one of the reasons I step away from politicians that offer these violent solutions is because I always go back to corporate America, sitting in these boardrooms and having these discussions with really ignorantly wealthy people. But anyway, we sit around a board, we sit around a table and try to come up with solutions and have these discussions. Okay, we can do this and this will do that, change this. Nope, that's not going to work out. We flip this. Okay, where's the spreadsheet? Look at this. Here's the numbers and we got this. And there's a new technology and it's called blah, blah, blah. And we go to, and never at the end of the day did somebody stop and say, you know what? How about we just murder everybody in the other country? in the other company. You can't make that department work, John. How about we just murder everybody in the department? Just send some drones down there. Just let's kill a bunch of people. They won't agree with us, and so that's easy. And that's like a real positive thing. It was at the end of the meeting, but that's not how it goes, right? The politicians and their violent solutions today. The first thing is, the first thing we're going to do. Let's have a discussion. Let's talk about any solutions we can. No, let's not discuss anything with them. This is sanctions. Do what I say or sanctions. We're going to starve your people with sanctions. Okay, and if the sanctions doesn't work, okay, we're sending some drones. We're going to murder you. We're going to murder the other company because we don't want the competition. And if the first solution out the gate is always violence, like there's no greater time to live because it's no more obvious that Japan wasn't the issue when it came to murdering those 300,000 people in China. It didn't matter that they were Japanese, right? And it's suspected that the Japanese actually killed Iris, but because they were obviously upset what she was saying, because they didn't want to apologize. Me personally, I don't care that Japan, whether they apologize or they don't. They don't. I don't know that I care, because Japan apologizing is a problem. Like, I don't see it from that perspective. I see it from a perspective as some humans who lived on this land went and killed humans that lived on that land. And because they lived in these little 1% borders that was called Japan, that's not important. It's not important to any real solution. You know, what's important to a real solution is we live at a time where humans actually thought that murdering some others was a good idea. And if we know that that was the problem, not that the Japanese are just bad people and we need to get rid of them or lock down military bases, you don't actually solve anything. You know, everything's about solving problems. It's not about treating the side effects, but actually solving the problem. And so if we accept that all the atrocities and massacres and these things that are happening is because we have people who still have the ability, their brains haven't evolved to a point where violent solutions are a bad idea, then they shouldn't be leading us. Because where are they leading us? If the people in power always come about violent solutions, we're only going to a place of more violence. Like, logically, doesn't it? I mean, and so people who are complicit with that, I shouldn't be voting, but I don't know, we can change that right now. We'll have to talk about that later. But there has to be some sort of a struggle. And so what kind of struggle? Maybe you don't update your phone. Maybe you don't buy a new computer. Maybe you don't buy your kids a bunch of electronic trash that's made with slave labor. You know, maybe you fix the lawnmower when it breaks. Maybe you drive the car a few extra miles instead of trading them in every time a new model comes out. Maybe you downscale your house. Maybe you shouldn't be working for one of the biggest corporations in the world. And so struggle can be many things. It doesn't mean that it has to be violent. It can be highly intelligent, right? If your brain has evolved past the violence. And I know a lot of people haven't. And for a lot of people, it's not evolving past it. It's just that you were raised to embrace violent solutions. And the neuroscientists can do something with that. But all right, so, oh man, I gotta show you something hard. I don't know if y'all ready for something hard. All right, goodness, we're gonna get in trouble on this one. We're not gonna make people too happy on this one. The only thing I'm gonna ask you to do, just hear me out, okay? Hear me out. Just watch what I gotta show you. Y'all going. I posted something crazy today. I forgot what I was thinking. I was thinking something about alt-right. And someone asked me, how do you define alt-right? I don't know, because half the time people think I'm alt-right. This is kind of how it goes. If you come at me with extreme points, then I actually grab points from the other side, because the intelligent points that actually make sense, the legitimate gripes, because all sides have legitimate gripes. They have intelligent people, and all sides, for the most part, have intelligent people within them. They don't tend to be who comes to the mic. So if I'm discussing something with someone far on the left, they're going to think I'm probably on the right. If I'm discussing somebody who's far on the right, they're going to think I'm on the left. But I'm not on any of it, because I just understand that all groups have legitimate gripes. And we address those gripes, the gripes go away. Wow, unity, an amazing thing. But so the Democrats are right, and the Republicans are right. Democrats are damn wrong, and the Republicans are damn wrong. And if we start to highlight what they say that's good for humanity, and we say the things that are bad for humanity, then we actually can get somewhere there. Hey, Kathy, how you doing? And this is my personal belief based on what I see and understand in my travels. Where are the Republicans right? The Republicans are mostly right in the idea that let me say this, fundamentally right. I'm not saying any of them practice it today, because the Democrats hate democracy and the Republicans hate the republic. So we're not, but fundamentally the core of what they're supposed to be. The Republicans are right about freedom. They're right about rights, civil rights, human rights, freedom, leave people alone. Republic type structures are more peaceful than massive corporate structures that try to invade the world. So the Republicans are right about that. The rest of the stuff I'm not going to touch. That's the stuff that I think they're right on. The Democrats are right, as well, where the Republicans are wrong is, you kind of let survival of the fittest do the rest. And where the Democrats are right is you got to take care of people. Like, that's a core value. You got to take care of people. And I'm always talking to my conservative friends a lot because that's a core teaching of Christ. Right? If you really follow Christ and you don't follow the psychopaths that run a lot of the churches, you have to take care of people. And the Democrats, they understand that. And they suck at it. They always roll out decisions that never work. But that's a part of their core principles. And that's true. And we never had a time in history to merge the two together, right? Because, who's going to pay for it? You can have freedom, but how am I going to make money as a corporation? We can take care of everybody, but who's going to pay for that? And so it all came down to a thing of money because we didn't have something that we have today. And it's called automation, right? That is the answer. And this is why I'm not against robotics. I'm not against automation. Automation is actually the savior of humanity, if we want it to be. It could also be the murderer of humanity. Have y'all seen the documentary? It's called Terminator. You should watch that. It's a cool documentary. And so, but automation solves the problems that both the Republicans and the Democrats have. Because from a Republican perspective, you can have your freedom and nobody has to pay for it. The robots are doing all the heavy lifting. They make your house, they feed you the food, they grow your food, they bring you the water. For the most part, you can have your freedom and nobody has to pay for it. From a Democrat perspective, everybody gets taken care of. You got everything that you need. And so you got healthcare, you got all these things. We are coming into a technological age where all of this is going to come together. And we create this model, perhaps, that can be deployed around the rest of the world. And this is why I'm pretty hard on my American brothers and sisters, because they're still treating side effects. They're still messing around with the tiddlywink issues. They're still Alabama, right? They're still, and I'm not telling anybody how to go about it. I'm just saying that if you actually want to fix a problem, you have to look at the root cause of the problem. All right, so now it's time to get in trouble. that led me down a couple avenues. I don't want to do this. I don't want to show this. All right. So I said something a while ago, and I stick by it. And I'll say it again. Based on what neuroscientists and behavioral scientists say, all politicians should have brain scans. All of them. Nobody should ever. First of all, I don't think that any one human being should tell another human being what to do. I believe in freedom. But if you are telling 340 million people what to do, how many people in America? If you're telling 7 billion people what to do, you can't do that till we know who you are. We got to check your resume. We got to check your psychological resume. Who are you? And so it brings to mind the whole Palestinian-Israel thing, right? So it's taking me a couple different places, y'all. Bear with me. So I was watching one of the discussions they were having about America being the peace broker. They're supposed to be the peace broker for Palestine and Israel. And I was sitting there thinking, well, wait a minute. How did we get here when America's a peace broker? I grew up in America. They don't do too much peace. This is not really, we're not the peace guru. So I'm sitting there wondering, because who was it? Hold on. I have to make sure I get the quote right. I believe it was the Palestinian president who said that America no longer has a place in the peace process. And I'm sitting here thinking, did America ever have a place in the peace process? Was that ever on the agenda? Has America deployed peace anywhere in this world? Is there ever a square acre anywhere in this world that we control, that we deploy peace on? If you can find it on the map, I'm a duck down. Can you find it on the map for me? Where has America ever? Did you check their resume first? Did you? Before y'all decided America was going to be the go-to Anybody check the peace section in their resume? Every world has a peace. Every world government they got a resume. You got to check. Okay, so where did y'all deploy peace? And who did you deploy it to? And if you did deploy some peace, let's check the references. And what do they got to say? Did they actually put some peace over here? Did they show up early in the morning? Did they work late? Did they take long breaks? And then, how does the peace feel? What kind of peace was it? Was it delicious peace? Was it? I think if y'all would have called America's reference, if there's one on it, I personally, I don't think America got peace on the resume anywhere. But if they did, and you called the reference, I'm quite sure they would say, nope, America left us in pieces. There wasn't no peace happening. It was pieces. So, but resumes, right? So, and this is everything I talk about. It probably tends to come from a corporate professional perspective. That's what I'm used to. That's who I used to be. But who I used to be. So I want to see the resume of the politicians. All right, so now it's time to get in trouble. So I saw this. And I know y'all not gonna watch. I want you to watch. I'm not gonna show you the whole thing, but I want you to watch it because I didn't know that this was happening. Y'all knew about this. I didn't know about this. Watch this.
This is Democracy Now! I'm Amy Goodman. We end today's show with growing questions about President Donald Trump's mental health. On Wednesday, Trump slurred his speech and mispronounced words during an address on Israel.
Let us rethink old assumptions and open our hearts and minds to possible and possibilities. And finally, I ask the leaders of the region, political and religious, Israeli and Palestinian, Jewish and Christian and Muslim, to join us in the noble quest for lasting peace. Thank you. God bless you. God bless Israel. God bless the Palestinians. And God bless the United States. Thank you very much.
White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders responded to questions about Trump's slurred speech.
All right, I'm going to stop there for a moment because I don't want anybody to mistake my take on that, first of all. So, and I'm happy. I thought that people were going to be laughing, and I'm glad that they're not, which means to me this is the right audience, right? While I disagree with all politicians, I do. There's a time and a place for being ignorant. There's a time and a place, and anytime, I love kids and I love me some old people, right? And we all got aging parents and brothers and sisters, and some of us are aging. So first of all, when I see the slurred speech, I start to kind of recognize that, right? I mean, not that I'm any sort of a doctor or neuroscientist or anything. But when someone starts to have a condition like that, that's not a time to like laugh and take advantage of it. So there's a discussion that's coming out of this. I wanted to show you that and then this discussion, but I also wanted to make sure, because I do want people to listen. I don't want them to duck out and like, oh, they're making fun of the Christian. Nah. Me personally, like I said, when I don't like to see. All right, let me shut up. I'm gonna shut up. I'm gonna play the rest of it because I want y'all to see this discussion. If you've seen it, you were ahead of me, but I just saw this. I guess this was like a week ago or something. So listen to this discussion. But no, first of all, it's not. I stopped laughing because I'm not laughing now. Like this is a deep discussion. So pay attention.
By announcing he scheduled a physical health exam.
The president's throat was dry, nothing more than that. He does have a physical scheduled for the first part of next year. The full physical that most presidents go through, that'll take place at Walter Reed, and those records will be released by the doctor following that taking place.
This comes as New York Times chief White House reporter Maggie Haberman commented on Trump's behavior when she was interviewed on CNN last week.
Something is unleashed with him lately. I don't know what is causing it. I don't know how to describe it.
You see a difference in the past, days, weeks?
I think the last couple of days' tweets have been
unhinged,
markedly accelerated in terms of seeming a little unmoored.
Last month, Pentagon leaders told a Senate panel they would ignore any unlawful order by the president to launch a nuclear strike. The testimony came as part of the first congressional hearings in more than 40 years on the president's authority to start a nuclear war. This is Connecticut Democrat Chris Murphy raised some of these questions. But for more, we're joined by someone who has led a discussion of mental health professionals who are concerned about President Trump's psychological instability. Dr. Bandy Lee is a forensic psychiatrist on the faculty of Yale School of Medicine, an internationally recognized expert on violence. She edited the book, The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. 27 psychiatrists and mental health experts assess a president. The book became a bestseller when it was published in October. It sold out over and over again. Dr. Bandy Lee, welcome to Democracy Now! What are your concerns, and are they increasing?
Well, we have been concerned about the mental stability of the president as well as his dangerousness since pretty much since his campaign, but heightened since his election. And I have been flooded with phone calls and emails.
All right, so hold on. Before people start flipping, let me put another back. So mind you, this is Democracy Now! You know, they were slightly critical of the left, but they're probably more left-facing. So let's just, understand there is going to be a little bit of a left lean, right? That's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is let's look at the discussion from your perspective. If you know me, you already know that I say that if you bomb kids, you're mentally ill anyway. Because there's an adult on this planet who's not a psychopath that doesn't bomb children. If you bomb children again and again and again with drones, something's wrong with you. So first of all, I don't believe we've ever had a president that doesn't have some sort of a psychological condition, because I don't know one adult, one parent who's actually ever considered or would be a part of murdering children. So this is not about Trump. This is not about Obama. It's not about Clinton. It's not about anything. It's just about where we maybe need to think about going in terms of politicians' resumes. You know, the president is a 70-year-old man. There's no 70-year-old man walking around this planet that doesn't have some sort of a cellular tissue damage in their brain, if you understand how biology works anyway. So this is not about Trump. This is about, let's just listen to a professional talk, accept that, yeah, she is a little left-leaning because she wrote the book, and toss that part of it out, and let's just really pay attention to the academia of it, of the discussion, not any one president in particular.
Emails, messages since the morning after election. Much of my profession had been silenced because of what is called the Goldwater rule. It basically states that psychiatrists are not to diagnose a public figure without having examined them personally and gotten consent. But interestingly, the American Psychiatric Association modified its own interpretation of the rule in March of this year to basically say that psychiatrists are not allowed to say anything about their speech or behavior, even in an emergency. And I felt that that actually went against the ethical principles of our profession. And so I held a conference in April to discuss the ethical rules and invited Robert J. Lifton as well as a number of other renowned members of my field. And only about 20 people showed up to a large auditorium. Basically, they were afraid. They were afraid of being targeted litigiously by the president or physically by his violence-prone followers.
So stop there for a moment. So a couple things there. Outside of the propaganda that's in there, all sides are violent. Because the leaders make violent solutions and the people who vote for them make violent solutions. The left is just as violent as the right, so stop that. The thing that she said there, one of the things that was deep, and I didn't know anything about, maybe y'all do, but the Goldwater rule. I don't know anything about that. This is deep and this is interesting, right? So there's a rule that says, and there's a following additional guidelines in the psychiatric community that say that they can't even comment on the potential mental state of a politician. Think about that. Don't think about Trump. Don't think about Obama, don't think about it. Just think about the idea that we somehow, they slipped in some rulings that allow our professionals to not tell us about the psychological status of the people who run our cities, our states, and our country. Think about if that makes any damn sense. So one, the Goldwater rule we need to look into. They say Goldwater girls, that's funny. Anyway, I'm not going there. D, we got to look into the Goldwater rule. So one of y'all know something about that, tell me. Let's finish it up.
But when the news got out, and in the national and international news, hundreds of mental health professionals got in touch with me, and now we're in the thousands.
So the movement is called the Duty to Warn movement, your conference, the Duty to Warn conference. What does that mean, duty to warn?
That is actually based on, the phrase comes from a California case, which has been litigated hundreds of times compared to the Goldwater case, which was only litigated once. But our profession in general has a duty to report, a duty to warn, and a duty to take steps to protect potential victims in the case of danger. We as mental health professionals routinely screen for risk and are involved in preventing violence as well as intervening with collaboration with security forces generally. And so when we have information that would cause us to suspect danger, we do have an obligation to intervene.
So you've just back from Capitol Hill. You're urging lawmakers, Democrat and Republican, to call for an urgent mental evaluation of Donald Trump.
Yes, because usually when there's a sign of danger, it's an emergency. So what we do is we contain the person, remove them from access to weapons, and do an urgent evaluation. This is what we have been urging for with regard to the president. He has shown a number of signs showing proneness to violence. He has incited violence in the past. He's shown an attraction to violence as a coping strategy of his own. He's taunted hostile nations with nuclear power. Basically, the risk in our minds is quite high.
Now, I wanted to ask you, there are those who are really questioning the duty to warn.
I got to put my 2 cents in there, so let's be honest now. In terms of violence, again, all presidents do it. Some show it more than others. And this is my post from this morning. I think I remember my quote. It was something to the effect of, the alt-right isn't a phenomenon. It actually is a reaction. It's a reaction to some really, really bad conditions and horrible things that the liberals have been rolling out for a while as authoritarians, right? So they weren't even invited to the discussions. The Republicans and the Democrats have been authoritarian liberals since Reagan. And they've been rolling out social engineering programs and things like the Patriot Act and kind of taking away from who y'all would call the alt-right. And what they felt was, we're sick. I can't speak for everyone. I can talk for the majority of my friends that I've talked to. And so they reacted. And they just basically said, we're going to put anybody in office, but it's not going to be another liberal. It doesn't matter who it is. And Hillary Clinton probably being one of the worst liberals on the planet, one of the most, I don't say worse, it's not the right word. But she's not even a liberal. Like, if you look at the definition of liberal, she's not liberal, and she's definitely not progressive. But in terms of the biggest authoritarian, from I want to do this, I'm going to do it, and I don't give a damn how it affects you or your life, that was her. Right? And so they picked someone who wasn't her for the most part. So this isn't a hit on them. It's not a hit on Trump. It's just an understanding that he came out of not her. Right? And so it's a discussion as to not only the safety of our world, not because of Donald Trump, the way they keep trying to word it, but because we keep putting violent people who are okay with violent solutions, all throughout political offices. And so, all right, so I want to make sure that's in there. If somebody comes in, they're hitting on my president. No, we're not hitting on the president.
Piece that was done by Noah Feldman, Stop Using Language of Mental Health to Criticize President Trump. And if you can respond to some of this criticism.
Actually, we're often confused with a non-professional group called Duty to Warn. We are actually a national coalition of mental health professionals who believe in the duty to warn as a principle of our profession, because we have an obligation not just to our individual patients but also to the public. And
Richard Friedman wrote in an op-ed piece in the New York Times, "There's one last reason we should avoid psychiatrically labeling our..."
Beaten. They look so battered, right? So I think we certainly want to get to a place where we actually can have the logical discussion and not look at this as some sort of intent to impeach the president. I have no interest in that. I know that people do, but from a keep the world safe perspective, make sure who we have in office really is able to do it. Maybe even from a think about why they age so roughly. Think about the way they're beaten up by the other sides, right? I think about how when somebody gets in, it's like no holds barred wrestling, where they're being attacked by the other side. When I heard him stuttering, I heard him kind of slurring over words. It kind of annoys me, when I think about why is everything wrong with everything this guy's fault? Why is everything, and the pressure that it kind of comes to bear? I think it was Howard Stern. Is it Howard Stern that said something to the effect of the president, him, because they were friends going, I guess, a ways back. And he basically said him being president, it was going to cause some sort of problem where it might actually kill him, or just have a really, really horrible effect because the amount of pressure that's going to come to bear from that office. So it's something to think about. It's something to think about in terms of long-term and solutions that we can actually get a resume from a person before we cast a vote, before we come about their psychological stability. We get to know who they are. So I think it's a great thing. I think we should look at it. I think that we got to be careful, though, because, one side is going to try to play it as a reason to attack another side. And if I voted for Trump, I didn't, but if I did, this is what I would say. I would be okay with you doing some sort of assessment of my president under a couple conditions. One, the Goldwater rule has to go. Any holds barred on the psychiatric community in terms of looking at any politician has to go away. And all politicians have to submit themselves for a psychiatric eval from the local level to the federal level. And prior to running for office, as a public servant in any branch, that there has to be some sort of an evaluation from that perspective as well. So anyway, listen, I'm going to drop this one. Mainly bandwidth looks like it went to crap. I think I'm frozen anyway on some of the broadcasts. So I'm going to wrap this up here. Appreciate y'all sitting in this afternoon. You guys have a good day, and let's keep the sharing going. Because once again, I don't think that we're actually discussing. This is more of a sharing of information, a sharing of thoughts, and something to think about. So anyway, y'all have a good day. It was nice sitting in with you, but I think my bandwidth is gone.